Hello everyone, my name is ALEEEEEEESA with 8 E's, and today I'll be casting a 2v2 on the map Tempest. My ally is BrokenRhythm as the Teal Protoss, and currently rank 15 in North America. Our opponents are Balsaris as the Red Protoss, and his ally DaXs as the Blue Terran. And this was during one of our 2v2 ladder games, and I will be casting with Kaya. Kaya, what's up?
Hey, not much. What's going on, man? It's been a while.
Yes, yes, it has. I've been doing a lot more drinking and a lot less StarCraft in the past few months, and I think I can get to half a glass of wine now without throwing up. So great improvement. And
There you
uh,
go.
and so those does look like none of us are cheesing thus far. Broken Rhythm putting down a 9 pylon, and I will be putting down a 10 supply depot. Not choosing to wall off at the entrance just because we are playing against Protoss and Terran, who both have ranged units. So walling off may not be the best idea, especially against a army of range units with a superior concave. Does look like Balsaris will be putting down a 12 gateway, and the Terran player putting down a 12 gas. So very standard so far.
Yeah, and even when you were talking about the wall-ins there, I know a lot of people used to wall in against Zerg all the time. And one of the things that we had talked about a little bit earlier was that with the increase in the Roach range, really that wall-in strategy isn't as successful against Zerg players even anymore. But one thing I did want to kind of talk with you about real quick before this game gets going too hot and heavy is this, of course, a 2v2 map, but it does have 8 spawning points. So you're kind of in a similar situation such as when you play 1v1s on Lost Temple or something like that, where there's 4 spawning points but only 2 of you playing. You have to do a lot more scouting, not only to find where your opponent is, but the earlier you get there, the more info and intel you can get on what they're trying to do. So what are your thoughts as far as how that's going to play out in this? Basically, we have a mirror matchup of Protoss Terran versus Protoss Terran. What are your thoughts on how the scouting on this 8-player map plays into the strategies?
I think that especially on this map, if you are in the near positions by air, like we are right now, then there's a high chance of air units or cliff jumping units such as blink stalkers or reapers in the early game, and obviously cliff jumping stalkers later in the game. And so that is going to play a big effect. Also, if you look at the natural of red, you can actually put a siege tank on your side, and that siege tank will be able to shell some of the gas in some positions. Now, I don't think that the siege tank from my natural can shell the natural of red's expansion, but in some of the positions you can actually hit the opponent's gas with the siege tanks, and that really dictates the amount of gas they will be getting in the mid and late game, and is really going to limit the opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do notice that it looks like you and Broken both have some early units here. You're sending a couple Marines out. There's one probe at the middle on the Zelnaga Watchtower. So already you guys have a very, very strong presence on the map. Going to be able to catch that probe scout before it really gets a whole lot more intel on what exactly you guys are doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually deliberately chose to put 2 Marines in the middle in case the opponent tried to actually capture it with 1 Marine. And one thing about this map, it's very important that I learned from 1v1s, is you always want to know when your opponent is moving out. And if you control the middle ground, then you will be able to see all enemy movement and especially worker movement in case the opponents do try to hide an expansion. Now, none of them are doing that so far, but it does look like Balsaris is getting a very quick Twilight Council while boosting Chronogate, so he might be going for a fast Dark Templar or Blinkstalk or Zealot Tech. And looking at Blue's base right now, it looks like he is getting Siege mode and Siege Tank, so he's a little bit supply locked right now, but he should be getting out of that fairly soon, and will be going a 1-1-1 Destiny Cloud Fisting against us. Still a little bit supply locked. And it looks like on my side, I am getting a Raven first before Banshee, and I also have a factory, so I might be going for 2 Starport Marine or just a. Oh no, I am putting down a Tech Lab on the factory, so we'll be getting Siege Shanks and Broken Rhythm right now, moving out with a Phoenix. And our initial plan for this game was actually to Broken Rhythm controls the skies with the Phoenix, and with those Phoenixes, you can constantly scout and do a partial contain, and basically force the opponent to get Stalkers or Marines, both of which are very susceptible to Siege Tanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just mentioning that you got that early Raven out, of course, the point defense drone is absolutely crucial when you're fighting against a large Stalker army. You can really tip the tide of a battle very quickly with 1-point defense drone. And I also see that you're getting out of Banshee. As you mentioned earlier, your base is actually quite close to the Protoss player Balsaris right above you, and some Banshee harass. It's going to be really easy for that Banshee to get up there. There's not a whole lot of travel distance by air, and once you get Cloak up, I don't know if that's something you're planning on getting. It's not researching currently, but if you get a cloaked Banshee back there, you can actually get a decent amount of harassment in. It doesn't even look like there is a robotics facility, robotics bay rather, up and running for our Protoss player yet, so he doesn't even have the capability to get observers, although he would have to rely on his Terran scans in order to detect a cloaked Banshee in his mineral line. But it looks like BrokenRhythm is doing a little bit of harassment here, doing some scanning, managing to keep all of his Phoenix alive still, but he is going to have to back off from those Marines so he doesn't lose any.
Yeah, definitely. And as you can see, the Terran player actually got a pretty quick engineering bay, allowing him to put down those turrets in his own base. And I think he may be putting down turrets in his opponent's base once he does see my Cloak Banshees. Now, there are a small skirmish group of stalkers, and what he's actually doing is using scan and blink, getting into my base, killing a supply depot very quickly. My units are horribly out of position right now. I only have Marines, and he looks like he's going to be picking away at my mineral line. Taking a look at the units lost right now, I'm definitely ahead with 450 minerals. And right now, BrokenRhythm coming in with his Phoenix is going to be picking up a ton of stalkers. Me attack moving, and his stalker army just gets fucking wrecked. I fucking messed this shit up. Anyway, I have a Marine and a Banshee and a Raven. So right now we are feeling pretty confident to move out. Now our only problem is once we realize that DaX is massing siege tanks, our armies are basically very ground weak at this point, and so that is definitely going to be a problem, preventing us from going all the way in. And that's what she said.
Yeah, indeed. It looks like we do see the Phoenix moving out, although there are a decent amount of siege tanks here. The Phoenix are very good at being able to pick those siege tanks up. You can actually Gravitron those siege tanks while they're in siege mode, so essentially you'd be able to make them ineffective. But unfortunately, BrokenRhythm getting a little bit out of position with those Phoenix, taking a lot of damage on him. He still has managed to keep all of them alive, but a few of them a lot softer than they were just a few minutes ago, and I guess that's what she said as well, right?
Yes. Anyway, looks like we are moving up. BrokenRhythm putting up a forward pylon, and his army is primarily Zealot and Sentry, and this is definitely fairly good against stalkers, before blink. But once, oh fucking shit, I just skipped. Hold on. All right, 1029. Never mind. So stalkers and sentries.
Wait, you're at 1029 right now?
Yeah, I'm at 1035 right now. Anyway, stalkers and sentries, Zealots and sentries are pretty good against stalkers if you can force field behind them to prevent them from running away. But once you have blink, the blink just really makes the force field very inefficient right now. And I am just right now we are just dancing our armies back and forth. I am really afraid to actually engage the stalker army, because I know that once I put down a PDD, the stalker army can just blink away, fight at another position without the PDD covering, and the PDD is basically what allows the Raven, Marine, Banshee to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is definitely something you want to keep in mind. Placing that even, I've seen a lot of players use that as almost an offensive maneuver, especially if you're wanting to engage those siege tanks without really having to worry about the stalker support. If you place that point defense drone in a place that makes it very difficult for the stalkers to cover the siege tanks, it actually makes moving in a little bit easier. Of course, that is something that you have to also be careful of, because with the amount of Marines, if they pick off that point defense drone before you're able to actually get under it, then the Marines can pick it off, rendering it basically useless.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing to note is that sentries actually do not have a projectile, so they can actually pick off the point defense drone fairly quickly if allowed to be focused. But as well, if you're going to have sentries run up to a point defense drone, you're basically expecting the majority of them to die. And BrokenRhythm doing a little bit of Phoenix Micro, getting caught a little bit out of position, killing a few units, however, and he is in the lead right now for the amount of resources lost. DaX having 3 siege tanks guarding the entrance, and it looks like we're going to have to be moving back as Balsaris and DaX push up to the center position. Right now it does look like I'm starting to get an expansion, and I am doing a 2 medevacs full of Marines, 3 Banshee, and 1 Raven drop with another medevac just to do a little bit of healing. Does look like Balsaris will be able to see this before the drop finishes with an observer. I will be killing it, however, with my Raven, and I accidentally pick up all my Marines, so I had to go and drop it again, putting down a PDD. Damn it! There is my PDD, putting down 2 PDDs actually with a 200 health Raven, and it looks like I will be attacking these stalkers a little bit. My goal was to prevent the Terran player from pushing up into the middle by constantly distracting him and doing a pseudo contain. That Siege getting caught a little bit out of position right now, and I do actually lose my Raven, so I'm going to be moving back with my Banshees, and my Medevac's kind of a failed drop just because it's really difficult to actually catch an army of pure blink stalkers out of position. Anyway, cloaking my Banshees and doing a little bit of gamble, assuming he didn't have a observer nearby. It does look like Balsaris did expand as well, and I am moving out with my expansion, BrokenRhythm, having established his expansion for quite some time actually, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we take a look at the income right now, we can see that BrokenRhythm is far ahead the strong suit on the income tab. He has 50 harvesters. The next closest person is our blue Terran player, DaXs, who only has 38, and so he's 14 harvesters behind. If that gives you an idea of how early Broken got his expansion up, was really able to saturate it. And it looks like right now we've got some Banshees doing some harassment on Balsaris' mineral line, forcing those probes to evacuate. And those Banshees actually have a decent amount of kills between them. One of them has 9 and one of them has 7, so that is definitely starting to stack up there a little bit, doing a good job of keeping these Banshees alive and doing as much harassment as possible before backing out. And it looks like there's 2 red Banshees that barely managed to make it away with very, very little health. So good unit control, pulling back when you needed to, and managing to do a lot of damage in the process.
Yeah, definitely. And right now my Banshee army is getting quite fearsome. I'm just trying to take as much advantage of the close spawn positions as possible. Every time the Terran wants to push out with his immobile army, I'm just going to drop his Protoss ally, and it does look like his Protoss ally using that observer to spot for the high ground. Not really, I don't think he actually knows how to shift Q blink, so he's just going to mass blink all his stalkers up now. And yeah, taking out my 2 additional barracks and that medevac that's a little bit out of position. I do have 4 Banshees now, but these Banshees are actually able to be seen by the observer. I really should not have been cloaked, but I do have Marauders coming in and a lot of infantry, a little bit staggered though, making it a little bit difficult for my infantry to all fire at once. But I do have 2 more Banshees, 1 in the red, 1 goes down, and I have 3 more Banshees left, and I should be pulling off some SCVs to repair those Banshees. It looks like I will barely be able to hold on to this with my Marauders. And one thing about Protoss units, or any kind of units in the Terran space, that they have the ability to actually spawn camp the Terran supply building. So once you get a few stalkers in your base, and it's really difficult to actually kill them, just because Protoss can actually warp all their units in a little bit, or collect for a little bit. But Terran units, they really have no choice besides to spawn next to the buildings. And it does look like blue is pushing up against BrokenRhythm's base, taking out a barracks right now. And there is a ton of Vikings right now, but those zealots are doing work on those siege tanks that aren't in siege mode and those marines. I am coming in from the back with my 4 Banshees, and blue really should be floating his Vikings. Yep, blue doing his Vikings, and scanning a little bit just to kill my Cloak Banshees. I am losing quite a few Cloak Banshees, 1 in the red and 1 having died right there. It looks like more units will be streaming towards us. Man, there's just action all over the place.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. A lot of back and forth battles, and it looks like a lot of them taking place right in front of BrokenRhythm's expansion here, managing to hold on to that initial gateway that was under fire. But there is a large amount of Protoss and Terran units starting to stack up outside of his base. And really, at this point, it seems like one of the best answers you guys can have against this very, very heavy tank and Stalker army is Marauders, which you are building more and more of right now. So that is definitely exactly where you guys need to be. But on the same token, there definitely needs to be something to deal with these Vikings, because if they get an overwhelming air presence, it can be very difficult to come back from that and get yourself back in the game.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that Red did when he came to my base was that he killed the 2 barracks that I was banking, and those 2 barracks really allowed him to delay the amount of Marauder production that I have currently. And so BrokenRhythm, having gotten a carrier, he's still using those Starforts. After realizing that Phoenixes won't work anymore, he'll be like, I'll just get a carrier. And one thing to note is that carriers are actually cost effective against Vikings once they have the Graviton catapult upgrade. And so it does look like my Marine Marauder army will be able to kill the small amount of gateway units up. And it looks like BrokenRhythm pulling off some probes just to tank a little bit of damage for him while he rebuilds his broken nexus.